Hello and welcome to the Machinist News Network. I'm Deirdre Kanievsky. It's called the Trade Act. The name is an acronym that stands for Trade, Reform, Accountability, Development, and Employment. And it's a piece of legislation that has the potential to change the way America does business.
Trade creates prosperity if it's done fairly. Free trade creates unemployment. Fair trade creates prosperity.
According to Ohio's Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, this is the crux of the issue, and why he authored the Trade Act, a bill that, if passed, could change the rules for America's past, present, and future trade policy.
And the Trade Act will set a whole different direction. We'll go back and look at the old trade agreements. How are they working? What works? What doesn't work? We will then begin to build standards in future trade agreements that work for workers, not necessarily work for investors, or too often work for the elite, both in our country and the country we're trading with.
By omitting items like worker and environmental safety from trade agreements, Brown argues today's trade policy does too much for business and not enough for workers.
What the trade agreements fundamentally have done is shifted power from democratic governments to corporations. There's simply too much incentive under our tax laws and under our trade policy for a company to leave Cleveland or leave Lima or leave Dayton and set up in Mexico or set up in China because of because of tax policy and because of trade policy. And the largest corporations in America have had too much of a lock on writing our trade policy and writing our tax policy.
Americans have been watching this shift happen for decades. For years, small towns across the United States have seen companies move their jobs to other countries. When Maytag left Galesburg, Illinois for Mexico, the city was devastated. That's because 30 years ago, a third of America's GDP was manufacturing, while 10 to 11% was financial services. Today, those numbers have switched places.
Our country has not had a manufacturing policy. We practice trade and tax law, not frankly in our national interests. I mean, machinists, steel workers, electrical workers, auto workers continue to lose jobs because of tax policy and because of trade policy. And if we're going to stop the bleeding and begin to turn it around for machinists, for people that are part of American manufacturing, then we need a very different trade policy as the Trade Act brings us.
Brown admits he needs labor's help to turn this around. Groups like the machinists need to continue to engage and push Congress to pass this legislation and put America back on top.
You can't create wealth just by handing money back and forth. You need to make things. Those are middle-class jobs. That's our national security. That's what matters to build this country. You can't.
Right now, the Trade Act is moving through the committee process on Capitol Hill. For more information on this bill or to read the legislation, you can log on to Senator Brown's website at brown.senate.gov or at goiam.org. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Machinist News Network.